The most common thing you'll hear about investing in SEO is that it's going to take at least 6 months to see a return. And when you say that, there's a litany of SEO experts that will show up and start refuting that statement because it's their job to deliver returns faster. But it's really about the context here, and it's less about can it be done faster. So the question you need to ask is, how mature is your website at the start? Generally speaking, I think I agree with the premise that it will take, months to see a return in SEO. There's some nuance there, though. Let's talk about it. You're listening to the Content Head Podcast with me, Joe Michalowski. Every week I dive into one big idea that's come up in my day-to-day while leading content in B2B SaaS. Listen in for lessons and rants about working through the challenges of being a lean content team in the do more with less environment we all find ourselves in. Thanks for joining me to nerd out about content. Let's get into it. In the earliest days of Mosaic's marketing, it was almost like we had to do door-to-door content distribution. There was no robust marketing infrastructure in place. There was no big reporting infrastructure. We didn't know for sure what was first touch or last touch attribution. None of that stuff was in place because essentially our marketing function was a handful of blog posts that we were just starting out with. And so what we leaned on was qualitative feedback from prospects. Did the prospects that came in the door reference our blog posts or our ebooks or whatever content we had? Huge win for us. Once you mature out of that, you got to decide, what are you going to take the leap into? What are you going to start investing bigger dollars in as the company gets more funding, gets more revenue? And so the day came that the company was ready to take a big leap. Co-founder came to me and wanted to talk about scaling our content efforts. And we'd done some light SEO work from the start. Articles we wrote were around some keywords, but for the most part, we were pretty all in on this door-to-door distribution idea. If we weren't handing someone a blog post, we didn't think people were going to flock to the website. And so co-founder decides that, the investors and everybody wants to see us go all in on SEO. And if you listen to the Everything Works episode, I think it was episode 4 we did, I'm a fan of this Ron Swanson mindset, not half-assing two things, but whole-assing one thing. And so, company expects us to go down the SEO route. I believed in it personally, just from past experience, that it could work. So I set out to crush organic search as a channel for Mosaic. And almost immediately, I was kind of smacked in the face with a dose of reality. So shout out to Nigel Stevens. He runs Organic Growth Marketing, OGM. I knew that company. I knew their reputation. I knew Nikia Palombi, who a good friend of mine, and also I've worked with her in the past. I'm connected to this company. I know they're the best of the best. So obviously I go right to them and I say, hey, what does it take to work with you guys? And that chat with Nigel off the bat was basically like, hey, SEO isn't really for everyone. Are you sure that this is going to work? At the time, I was a team of one, content team of one, a marketing team of 4 or 5, I think, at the time. And what I learned from Nigel is that, this isn't just, build some keyword infrastructure behind the content strategy and we'll be good to go. We really expected a lot out of our infrastructure and our resources to execute. And somebody, John Henry Shirk at Growth Sprints. No, not Growth Sprints. So let's cut the Growth Sprints part. But John Henry Shirk takes that a step further. And he says you really need a solid brand for SEO to pay off. In many cases, it's really not something that you kind of go all in on with, starting from zero. And so if you're starting from absolute zero, you should expect kind of an uphill trek to ROI. That's kind of where we were. Our website really, we didn't have a big name yet. We didn't have a lot of authority across the website. And so my case to the business made it very clear that we were investing for the long term. This was not something that we were going to see returns on in a few months. And I was lucky enough to have a well-rounded enough marketing function that we weren't fully reliant on SEO. And so lucky me, I was able to kind of convince Nigel and OGM to work with us. And, we kind of set down that path. And so we kind of expected this to take months and months, but we saw returns pretty early thanks to kind of a not so standard mindset, or at least not one that I was aware of before starting with OGM. And so what I want to talk about is on the surface, SEO seems to be the best time to start was a year ago, and the second best time to start is right now kind of channel. The sooner you start, the more authority you build, the more traffic you get 3, 6, 12 months down the line. But that's not really the case. Like, it's not always best to just start as early as possible. And so I want to talk a little bit about how OGM and I and Mosaic saw some like early spikes in results. And so the first thing that I want to talk about is kind of treating SEO as like a second order channel. And that doesn't mean that it's not super valuable. It doesn't mean that it's not important. It just means that it was like the second thing I thought of, not the end all be all starting point. And as I said, like whole focus. And so the focus early on, it was less about keywords and more on getting, the Mosaic perspective out into the world about topics that mattered to us because we were building a certain product, and to our audience because we knew pretty well who we were selling to. We had a very well-defined ideal client profile, and we felt ready to go. And so we built some search optimization to that early content, but we really prioritized like thought leadership first. It wasn't fully into thought leadership, but we added a lot of unique perspectives and really arguments to the content we were writing, even though it was written about keywords. And so when we first started talking to OGM, or if you really talk to any SEO agency, you kind of like, I guess the expectation is that they come in and they give you the robust strategy that's kind of like, okay, like here's what you weren't doing before, and now we're gonna do SEO. And what I found with OGM, what I really liked about working with them, or still like about working with them, is the ability to look at the content strategy I had that wasn't built around SEO's distribution channel and build an organic growth SEO engine underneath the existing content strategy. There is a difference in what seems like a very nuanced thing, but that difference matters. And why does it matter? It's because the second thing I want to talk about is to get early returns on SEO, you can't just be writing net new content from scratch and saying like, okay, I published this and like, I hope next week it ranks and we're good to go, especially with a new website like Mosaics. And so what we did super early on was focus on low hanging fruit and optimizations. And this was like a huge win for Mosaic that Nakia and the OGM team sort of spearheaded. And the idea is like we treated SEO as like the second priority from the beginning without OGM before we worked with them. And so we had this library of content. It's almost like a credit history. It's like the oldest credit card you have open is like kind of what sets the bar for a lot of your credit history. It's the same thing with Google. It's like how early have you been creating content? Not search optimized, but crawlable, and your website is there. You have backlinks just naturally because of the existence of the website. And so we had that. And so we weren't trying to scramble to get content out the door for the first time on the website, but we're kind of reviewing the content. We're deciding like, okay, like our first priority for a few months is optimize, 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 and don't lose the original thought leadership angles of that content. And the best example I have, we had this big section of the website. We called it the metrics catalog. And that's because a big part of our product was these out of the box, like pre-built metrics. You can go in and you can say, oh, show me my ARR or show me my customer acquisition costs. And like we had the logic and the calculations built in. And so you didn't have to like do it yourself in a spreadsheet. And our product marketers at the time did this thing where they made a page for every metric we had. And so the idea was like somebody would come to the website, they'd see our metrics catalog and they go, wow, your product really has a lot of metrics. Like, look at all these different things. But all the pages had were like a header, a one line definition, very, very, very short, and then a graph. Like they're very light pages. They did almost nothing for SEO because there's no content there. But those pages were on the site for like a year before I talked to OGM. And so what OGM did was come in and they built a whole engine underneath those pages, reviewed all the URLs, saw what they were ranking for already. And we just started going to work, moving existing content, filling out those pages, and just started linking in between all of them. And changing those from product marketing pages to content marketing pages, we saw results in traffic, 1-2 months into our relationship, and saw traffic go from like, I don't know, a couple thousand to like tens, like 10, 15,000. And so that's kind of the like, that was the key for us to see really quick returns, was taking advantage of the existing content on the site and building organic search behind it, an engine behind it, not just starting from scratch and thinking that we're going to rank for everything. And so the third thing I want to talk about quickly is just like the ongoing process of it. So once you like get all the low hanging fruit, you do those optimizations. That metrics catalog example that I gave, we continue to treat that as a glossary. We keep building out those pages, but the original set of pages took us a while to do it. But then you're like ready to keep making net new content alongside it, build up authority that way. And personally, for my money, there's nothing better than product led SEO. So people will tell you go bottom funnel, like best, I don't know, finance software or best CRM software, and like try to make content around those lists because it's like high intent. And I can't dispute the value of that. Or category landing pages or programmatic like template pages, whatever. Like those are all great strategies. But for me, looking at our product, mapping out use cases and really just finding like low volume, low competition keywords related to those use cases where I can give a how-to guide, I can give really detailed, like as close to thought leadership as possible while still aligning with search optimization requirements or like I'm going to call it best practices. I don't love best practices, but that's okay. Being able to do that is like, okay, somebody showed up on our page because they want to know about financial modeling and how to do it. Being able to give our perspective just based on the kind of product we have, the type of person we have, these are really complex processes, and being able to inject our product into the conversation leads to a lot of demand for the company. And so like this is a sales led motion. It doesn't work for everything, but for my money, that has been the best way to generate not just traffic. It's not the best way to generate traffic, that's for sure. You'll see on LinkedIn or X, Twitter, whatever, or Threads, these people with these like really great looking graphs about spikes in traffic. I want to know what the revenue is attached to that. And so for me, we're generating, real opportunities because of this product led SEO strategy. And, there's more that we can do with it, but that for my money, that's the best way to kind of keep going. That's what I do with OGM. And it's why we've had such a great partnership. And so that's really what I wanted to like to focus on in this episode. It was really just those 3 points about getting returns out of SEO faster, mostly by not starting with SEO first and foremost. And so my 3 sort of key nuggets for this episode. First is to think customers over keywords. You'll see this all the time. That's getting increasingly common if you just follow the right set of people kind of doing things for pipeline, not just traffic numbers. And you should be creating content around what your customers care most about. Endear yourself and your company to your customers. When they show up, do they feel attached to your company's ideas and thoughts, or are they just here to get a list and kind of move on? The keywords can come later. Like I said, OGM, thank God for them. The work you can do to build keywords and optimize later into content that you've already, it's really strong, pays huge dividends later on. Second thing is to align to your go-to-market model. I mentioned this a minute ago. Mosaic is sales-led, demo request focused. So no free trial, no freemium model, anything like that. And so for us, getting people in the door, driving leads, and really just getting like a solid library of content that generates demand, gets people to request demos based on what they can see. One, they know that we know what we're talking about. They trust us. And also they get like a taste of what the product can do with some videos and things in the articles. That works really well for us. In a product-led organization, maybe that product-led low volume keyword model isn't as solid. Maybe those bottom funnel best software tool lists, or even more top of funnel, just general things, just getting more people to the site and seeing that like immediate free trial or sign up free or create an account button, you know, high volume's good there, and then you can rely on the product to kind of sell from there. So yeah, align to your go-to-market model, make sure that what you're doing makes sense for that. For me, it's all sales-led, demo request focus. And the third and final thing is that I'm going to go back to what Nigel told me. SEO is not for everyone. It is a distribution channel like any other. I know it's a big one. It's huge, but especially with the stuff that Google's doing with AI And it's ever changing. It always has been, and it continues to change pretty exponentially. And man, it is hard to do SEO well. What I would say if you're going to do it, go all in. Don't just create some blog posts, like, 2, 3 blog posts, 4, 5 blog posts even, and build it around a keyword. Go all in with a partner that thinks like OGM does and say, okay, you have great content, you have strong opinions and angles. We're just going to come in underneath all of that and make sure that it aligns to something that is getting search traffic. And so, we have to tweak things here and there, but really, like, go all in when you're ready. And when you're not ready, there are many other ways to prepare your website and yourself for investing in SEO later so that you can do it better. And that's really all I have for you. Shout out again just to OGM, Nakia, Nigel, Nolan, Maria, literally Ian. I'm going to forget a lot of people. There's a lot of people at that company that do a lot of things for me and for Mosaic. And Mosaic's results wouldn't be where they are without them. And so find yourself a partner like OGM. They're the best. But yeah, I think SEO can pay dividends before 6 months, but you probably would have had to do some work to get there ahead of time. And so, yeah, best of luck. And if you want to know more about SEO and what Mosaic's doing, let me know. Thanks. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Content Head Podcast. One thing before you go, I'd love to hear your thoughts about today's topic. Send a note to contentheadshow@gmail.com and let me know what's on your mind. And if you liked the episode, be sure to follow Content Head wherever you listen to your podcast. I'll see you on the next one.